Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am your captain, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is me skinny rich friend.
It's
and
Mozz.
First mate. It's Mozz. Mozz! Mozz. My friend from Staten Island, who may as well live across the Atlantic Ocean. Because Staten Island, man, it's hard to get to.
Oh boy.
They charge you both ways. It's the only place that charges you to go to New Jersey. It's like, really, dude? To New Jersey?
Right. And the funny part is that's half the reason most of the people flow through the island is just to get to Jersey or getting somewhere from Jersey.
Crazy, man. Anyway, speaking of One Way Out, that's tonight's episode. In a galaxy far, far away, filled with capes and lunatics, gods, and monsters, there is only one way out of Andor, Season 1, Episode 10. A rare opportunity opens, and the time for Cassian and his fellow inmates to act is now. Toby Haynes is our director this week. Our writers are, of course, good old Bo Willimon. And Tony Gilroy gets that created by credit, or that, Cassian gets the thing, and then for created by, and this is all based on good old Jorge Lucas, who created Star Wars. He's a popular young gentleman, Jorge. What I will say is, man, if that old guy hadn't died last episode, and the doctor hadn't been so cooperative. And, this is the thing, is that so much of all of this is hinged on coincidence, but so much of history winds up being hinged on coincidence.
I think it's also a matter of perspective. You can call it coincidence, or you could call it the instance that worked, because I guarantee you, if the old man hadn't died, Cassian would have found another coincidence that we would have called it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that is true, but he does need to get Andy Serkis, who is just a fantastic actor. I want Andy Serkis to get an Emmy for this. He is really great in this. I'm trying to find his. It's like Kino Loy. By the way, I love when they give people the name Kino in Star Wars, because Kino, it actually means cinema in a lot of European dialects. So they always called it Kino. Like in Germany, if you go to Germany, you'll see the word Kino all over the place. It means they show movies there, or videotapes, or usually pornographic films. But so I love anytime I see the word Kino, because it's a popular name in the Star Wars universe, and I like that fact of it. But Kino Loy, who is a man of his time and a man of his place. Though I will say, I'm going to say this right now. We don't get his fate in the end of this.
No, we don't. Actually.
We don't. We know that he can't swim.
Right.
Which immediately makes you go, what was his plan in this? But at the same time.
Yeah, that's what the thing I appreciated about him. Like, even from the beginning, he seemed like a hard customer, but he was just trying to make the lives of the people under his charge easier. right? He was a man for his people. And even then when he said, just to stick it to the man was his plan. I'm already dead. So it didn't matter. Like, it was just like to get a measure of like, how dare you, right? Nobody does this to me, right? Recognize the power in me. You can't do this to me. I won't let you.
Exactly. And that is what I think is, I like that about him. Although at the same time, there's this secondary argument, which is like, yeah, but you were a collaborator. You came into this knowing who you were and what you were doing and what you were doing to other people.
Right. But because those were the only choices available to him. Right. So he had been there longer than all these other people. So he'd already wrestled with these ideas that are brand new to these people. Hope, anger, bravado, all these things were already beaten at him. And he's seen it beaten out of everybody else that's ever come in here as well. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to fast forward them to the part where they can be manageable, where their minds cannot be under assault constantly. And what's the best way to exist in this world? I'm just trying to give you the keys to make your life easier. And even at the end, I think that was a big part for him. He's like, I can be useful to my fellow man. Right. I mean, we can do this and people will get out. Maybe I won't, but, and to me, this episode should have been the end of the series or the end of the season. Just there, them escaping would have been a beautiful end. And this episode hinges on two great speeches. Right. Mm-hmm. One Kino Loy gives when he's getting everybody riled up and Diego Luna, Cassian has to be like, come on, is that the best you got? And then he really gets into it. That and Luthen's speech at the end. Those two things are so unbelievably powerful.
This is where we get Luthen's speech to the collaborator.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
But it's the same thing that he's doing here. Kino Loy is doing here. Right. He's giving up of himself to feed his people. And that I thought was beautiful and powerful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It is powerful. But I that's the thing. It's like so much of this. And I'm gonna throw you an interesting thought here. Droids are sentient in the Star Wars galaxy. Droids are effectively slaves. Droids are the one that are doing all the cleaning, all the caretaking. Everything that goes on in this prison, it's mostly droid run. Do you think the droids are collaborators with the rebellion? Do you think the droids basically know dang well that Cassian has popped a panel in the toilet and is whittling down the pipe? Because the droids don't care. The droids are like, this is one of these things I think is the most interesting unexplored aspects of Star Wars is how the real lower classes, the gangsters, the criminals, and the slaves are as much a feature of how the rebellion succeeds as the human characters who are getting all the glory. It's, as they say, it's like, what is Star Wars if you take out R2-D2? Without R2-D2, Star Wars doesn't happen. And the fact of the matter is that so many of these characters that you don't even know or acknowledge, they are made to be sentient. They're made to be real AI. And yet, at the same time, what do they do except their jobs? But at the same time, if their job doesn't contain informing the Empire of problems, they don't inform them. So when that robot comes in every day to clean the toilets, because I'm sorry, no matter what you're eating, whatever that protein paste is, flavor or not, there is going to be someone that has to come in and clean that toilet, and they're going to see that the panel's ajar. They're going to see what's going on, and they're going to choose because we know that droids can choose. They can choose to lie, as we see with our good little box droid, or they can choose to tell the truth. Lying takes more energy, but they choose to withhold information because maybe they don't like their situation either. And maybe they hope someday droids will get respect, which is both beautiful and sad because, unfortunately, we do deal in this episode with the human nature of human supremacy, specifically with getting the loan from the gangster. We're gonna get back to the break in a minute.
Yeah,
but I do want to talk about this.
How does it relate to human supremacy?
Well, because human supremacy is based on a caste system, and the idea that
he's trying to break the barriers and break into a new caste kind of thing.
Exactly. He says, "You're a senator. You're old money. I'm new money. I would love if my new money son could meet your old money daughter." And it's not like he says, "Look, I'm not talking about a betrothal. I'm just saying, teenagers are going to teenage."
Right. And that idea is so offensive to her.
Exactly. And it's like, and it is interesting because we also get that she meets with her cousin either this episode or last episode. And her cousin's the one really going out there. She's basically being Batman, her cousin, where she presents herself as the privileged wastrel. But at the same time, is, in fact, her sister or her cousin actually tells her, sister, I can't remember what it was, but says, you need to spend more time as a privileged wastrel so that people don't start to suspect,
What an Alfred statement.
Exactly. You need to go out there and put out a sex tape or something so that people know you're just a goofball. Yeah. They don't have to worry about, because you're doing a little too much good right now. And that could be dangerous for everybody, because then everyone starts looking at everything else.
I love that when she's talking to Mon Mothma that she regurgitates a line that her girlfriend said to her when she's like, "Oh, why aren't you paying attention to me?" She's like, "Man, the rebellion comes first. We take what's left." And it really stung her. That line really bothered her. So when she got an opportunity to use it, I loved the way the actress played this. She really enjoyed delivering that line just to get some of that stink off of her, She's like, "The rebellion comes first. We take what's left." It's like, it was such a cool moment.
It is a cool moment. And this is so much of the rebellion, and what I think makes the rebellion so hard. And makes me wonder about that senatorial position. Is she really willing to risk everything for the rebellion, the way that everyone else is? And to be fair, it's a lot easier to be for the rebellion when you're a privileged wastrel, when you are someone who has the money in the bank, which is why, to be fair, the rebellion needs people like Cassian and people like our thug, who, quite frankly, it's like, look, man, I'm a gangster. I make money as a gangster, but, I want something better for my kids.
That's the thing, right? Because all the other people, Luthen, Cassian, all these, they don't have kids. She's got a kid. It's a very different equation for her. Her cousin, she doesn't have kids. She can afford to be Batman out there because she doesn't have kids. Yeah. She has a daughter. It's a very different.
It is ironic that Batman winds up grabbing a bunch of kids off the street. Says, "You're my kid now. Now go fight crime." Right.
Hey, that's what Cassian's mom did. Marva.
Yeah. Oh, Marva. Man, there's a line in one of these episodes where our favorite ISP Nazi basically says, it's like, "Why didn't you bring in the mom?" It's like, "Well, we figure she's better as bait, and she's too old to cause a problem."
Right.
I'm man, honey, never say someone's too old to cause a problem.
No, but that just shows you how long Marva's been at it, that she knows exactly how to play that role.
Exactly. She's
an OG.
She's Vinny the Chinning it, It's like, as soon as you come to her, it's like, "Oh, what day is it today? It's so cold in here. Where's my bathroom?" And she's just, as soon as she's ready, she's like, "F the Empire, man. We gotta tear it all down." And I love that about her. She is a great character. Again, another real Emmy contender from this whole thing. Because she is a person who just has 0 F's to give and will give you all 0 of them. She will find an F to give. Here are my negative Fs to give you.
Yeah.
I want you to know how important it is for me to give you these Fs.
Yeah, you'll remember that spanking.
Yeah, she is awesome in this, and but just the idea that, you know, and again, it is why I've realized that as big of a BA as she's meant to look like, our ISP person, she is meant to be hoisted by her own petard. Because everything she says, everything she does, it is all to show both how powerless she is at the end of the day, how out of her depth she is, and how much she represents the Empire in controlling people. Because she thinks she has these powers. She thinks she has it all under control. And at no point does she ever really have that.
I think it's really... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
So I think it's interesting to me, like she is... Every time she encounters... what's his name?
Frank Mr.
Burns. Tailored Suits, right? Every time she encounters him, she's like offended by him. It's again that caste structure kind of thing. You're lower class. I'm an executive. I'm an officer. You're just a lowly peon. But like she is him, and she's fighting so hard not to admit that to herself that she is him, and that's the struggle in her. To watch that happen is so cool.
Yeah, and again, like I said, she has no power against him because what's she going to say? She's going to say there's a guy who she did help who just says he loves the Empire so much, and I don't want him coming near me. But how is she going to stop that? Because no one else is going to respect that statement. They're going to say, well, clearly... First off, you made sure his record was wiped. So what was that, lady? You just did a nice thing for him. Yeah. You obviously wanted him to know you were being nice to him. You know? I mean, which is unfortunate that there is that. But let's face it, there's an emperor in this universe, not in this galaxy, not an empress. She still has to deal with that caste system of being a woman.
Right. I mean, she dealt with it really well with the other... middle management dude that was trying to get in her way. She's good at what she does.
She is very good at what she does, and I love that about her. But it does show that, you know, she is struggling with the reality of her day-to-day, that it's never as easy as you want it to be.
I find it surprising that she hasn't been lured in by the idea that she can use him somehow. He seems like ripe for being a pawn in something. He's like, please make me a pawn in something. He wants to be a pawn.
Know, he really does want to be a pawn. He's like, look, you're my queen.
Yeah.
Make me a pawn.
Right.
Push, you know, honestly, this is the thing. It's like, you want me to infiltrate the rebellion? I am down for that. I can fake that. Sure, happy. You know, although at the same time, I think that within her own perspective of her own life, she doesn't want to engage him in that way.
Yeah.
That engaging him in that way is dangerous and problematic for her. You know, that is, I think what you hit with that is that it becomes difficult for her to engage with him in that way. And I think she's afraid that if she does tie herself to him, first off, it ties back to her. And then, let's not forget, this is the guy who had the entire Perich raid go, Perich up on the whole thing. You know, so when it all goes up, you know, it's like,
you know, if I was her,
think you're as useful as you think you are.
If I was her, I would have sent him to go badger her rival. And I bet you he would have been greedy enough to try to use him and ruin his own plans.
That could have been the case.
That would have been fun.
Honestly, I would have sent him back to Ferrix and just say, just start snooping in Ferrix.
Yeah.
See, say, I want you to go deep cover on Ferrix.
Right. And
see what you can learn.
I've never heard of you.
Everything you hear back to me.
Yeah.
Because I bet you he could blend in on Ferrix.
Yeah.
Because he looks like an idiot.
Yeah.
And no one ever questions the idiot.
Yep.
That's always the question.
Yeah.
Oh. But so they take our old man away. They got the bag. They get the bag in the cart.
Mm.
And I know it's a prison, so they're not going to do a lot for him, but you do want him to have. You wish there could have been a moment of silence or something. And honestly, this is.
Although, I mean, like, forget a moment of silence. What that old man's death caused was an explosion of emotion, right?
Oh yeah,
that was the impetus that propelled the actual escape to finally take form, and for people to finally get on board.
See, and this is where the Nobody Slit, which is last episode's title, comes into effect. They're not treating their prisoners as humans.
Right.
They're treating them as replaceable slave labor. In fact, I think last episode Cassian makes that statement. It's like we're cheaper, and we're easier to replace than droids, which is a scary thought. That we can build AI that's really good at what it does, but no, we don't use those things for hard work, because honestly, it's easier to just get a bunch of low-class people and push them into the machines, That people are better than droids at building things, because droids are expensive, But within this concept, I mean, if you had treated this like a real moment, if you were the Empire, and even if you were the prison contractor, you would say, in honor of prisoner X2109's death, today will be a free day. Every person on his shift, on his floor, can relax. We understand the weight of a death within our crew means to you who have known him. And so we acknowledge this, and we'll give you even the next 3 days off. And you know what? Giving people a 3-day cooling period probably prevents the riot. Because that's the thing. It's that you have this emotional moment. You have the emotional reveal. And then you have the opportunity, and everyone is already highly charged. And it goes in there to be this moment. We break the pipe, which again, what I love about this is specifically that it relates to the idea of government contracting, and that they're not going to have a separate hydraulic system, which honestly, realistically, you should have a separate hydraulic system for the lifts than anything else, but that you're going to break this, and that's going to hamper your local lift. Because we do see them running upstairs later, which I do think is also cool, because it shows, the lifts are broken, but we can still access the stairs. And within the concept, it is just this idea that, there is, when you're contracting this thing, you're not going to put in a lot of double redundancies, because you only get paid so much for the process, for the product. So we're building a prison. We have to have that prison come in under budget, which is why the prison only has so many people on staff. And, okay, I don't want to cause riots at every prison in the U.S., but what you see here is the basic conundrum of prisons. You cannot have enough people staffing a prison to control the population within the prison. Everything within the prison is built off of minimal cost security, meaning that anytime every person in a prison can collectively seek to move out, there's literally only a thin wall of resistance to stop them. Which is not good for larger society, because some people in prisons are very bad, and is not good for the prisons, because the people in prison often want to get out. The main goal of a prison is, as we spoke about last episode, the social contract, where we establish a social contract that says X years for crime equals freedom. And as soon as people can start to get freedom, they are more than willing to take the 3 hots and a cot because they know that freedom is coming. And what the Empire did here, which is stupid but indicative of fascistic governments, is decided, well, we just don't have to let them out. And it's like, no. You don't understand. The entire model that this is built on is the idea that they get out eventually. If they don't get out, they will leave, because we can't stop them from leaving if there's not a way to get out.
Right.
For all the complaints about prison reform in our current world, a lot of that actually derives from this idea that, the less safe a person feels within prison, the more likely it is they're going to do something bad in prison. And what you need to establish is this idea like, look, I know it's not comfortable, I know it's not good, but these are the reasons we're putting you in prison. These are the reasons it's not that bad to be here. And so if you will kindly stay here for the endurance of your sentence, because this is not a punish. This is a reformatorium, if you will. That this is not meant to be punitive per se, unless you've actually been convicted of a punitive crime. That, if you can put someone away and say, but here's how you'll contact your friends. Here's where you'll sleep. Here's your food. Here's how we make sure that it's a comfortable stay, even if you are awaiting sentencing. People will be acceptable for that, but that costs money, and nobody wants to spend money. And because they don't want to spend money, now it becomes torturous, and now nobody wants to allow it to exist. Because if you don't make it palatable,
humane,
if you don't make it humane, no one's going to want to be there, especially if they haven't been convicted of anything yet.
Right.
You need to make it a situation where it's like, look, we know you're not convicted yet. We think we'll convict you, and that's fine. But for right now, even if we have to wait till we can get you to trial, we want to make this comfortable for you. So here's cable, here's Netflix, here's whatever you need. Here's basically the Howard Johnsons on Rikers Island. You do that, and suddenly it's not so bad. But, when you make it the Rikers Island and Rikers Island, and then suddenly everyone's mad. Yeah. And that's how you get riots, and that's how Cassian Andor escapes to eventually be the star of Rogue One. Or possibly the third lead. I don't know.
I hope so. And that guy's an incredible actor. Diego Luna is amazing.
Wasn't he in Rogue One? Isn't the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So does he survive Rogue One?
I don't remember, but I hope so. I think so.
Yeah. I mean, well, here's what I'll say. At the end of this episode, I'm watching it, I'm thinking, they're all jumping into the ocean. What are they all going to do?
I mean, hey, they're already dead, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. But honestly, I want Cassian Andor to get
right. But I mean, there's a chance that you could float your way down to whatever, find some debris that you can latch onto or something, or hope. Yeah,
which again goes into this entire idea that as much as you'd like to put all the prisons in Antarctica or even Alcatraz surrounded by sharks, it doesn't prevent escapes, and it doesn't prevent people. No guard wants to work in Antarctica.
Right.
So whatever this planet has, there's got to be settlements nearby.
Yeah.
And there's got to be stuff for people to go to, because nobody wants to be stuck here forever.
Yeah.
You don't want your guards to think they're prisoners too.
Right.
And that's the thing of it. It's rough how you break it down, But this is why, the inherent idea of inhumane prisons don't work. Just like inhumane police officers don't work. It's like if you have a system, you can have a system that'll work so long as everyone is operating to ideals of the system. But the second, venial people and sociopaths get into the system and want to try and look better by putting more people away or by doing bad things to people,
yeah,
that's when everything gets bad. What I'm saying is that the Empire at the start of it was just a bureaucracy. And really, it was more about one guy's goal to sort of live forever through his apprentices to effectively create a system where each Sith master takes over the Sith Lord and yada, yada, yada for all eternity. And one person gets to live forever as a conglomeration of souls. At least that's the current theory on what all that craziness was about. See, Jedi, you strike them down, they become more powerful because they become individuals. Whereas Sith Lords, when you strike a Sith Lord down, that Sith Lord becomes part of you because you strike them down in anger. And because you strike them down in anger, they become you, and then they take over your body for eternity. And so that's
so interesting, the parallels between the Star Wars story and the Dune stories, right?
Well, I think that
they have this whole thing where all the previous Reverend Mothers are in the consciousness of the current Reverend Mother, right? And she can pull back on them and have conversations with them, and they're there. Sometimes they can take control. So it's like that. It's so fascinating, the parallels between those stories.
Yeah, well, I mean, not for nothing, Dune came out before Star Wars, and Star Wars borrows happily.
Yeah.
From the art that came before it, which all art should.
Yeah. You
can't say, oh, they're just doing that. It's like, no, they're adding their own stuff.
Yeah, it's not an indictment at all, but I'm just...
Yeah, I mean, that's the real interesting aspect of what I will say about the Rise of Skywalker, is that you really get this idea that there is a chorus of Sith and a chorus of Jedi, but that each individual Jedi remains an individual. Whereas within the Sith, it seems to be that even Palpatine is just his master taking over from him. Darth, I forget, because Palpatine is Darth Sidious, and before him was Darth Tyrannus. And the idea is that Darth Tyrannus is actually Darth Sidious, and that if Rey had struck him down in anger, or Luke had struck him down in anger, he would have taken on a new Darth name, but it would have still been that first Darth Tyrannus, who learned to escape death by simply subsuming the Force within his pupils. At least that's the current theory on it. And I like that idea because it parallels the light side and the dark side of the Force when Darth says, who was still an apprentice, remember, Anakin never became a master. At most, he is a master of evil, but he is not a master of the Force. Obi-Wan says, you will strike me down and you will only make me more powerful, which is true, but there is a equal and opposite reaction within the Sith, which is that you will strike me down and I will become more powerful as you strike me down, because I will become you. I'll have your power and my power within myself. It's cool like that. Anyway, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah, they escape.
Yeah.
We did get, and I think we talked about this previously, about the not wanting to mix with the gangsters, which, man, that makes me lose so much respect for the Republic. And because, like, to me, Jabba is the unsung hero of the rebellion. Yeah, he made a profit on the deal, but the fact of the matter is, he was absolutely willing to sell guns to the rebels.
Yeah.
Because he knew, and not for nothing, much like this gangster we meet in this episode, he knows dang well he's funding the rebellion. Because he's thinking long term. He's like, the Empire there, that's going to last a week, whatever. I'd rather make friends in the rebellion.
If it does or doesn't, it's good to have a back channel and a second option. To get
Exactly. I will happily, set this up, and I really want to establish myself within the surprising power structure that survived after the revolution.
Yeah.
Which is really, that's the real interesting aspect of it. Because, like, the Empire took over, but there's still all the senators there.
Yeah.
Everyone who was rich under the Republic is still rich under the Empire. They killed a bunch of Jedi, but, Jedi don't have money. So what are you going to do with life, And so from a gangster's perspective, it's like, oh, okay, this is not a change. This is just they've changed the voting structure.
Right.
And now effectively the Prime Minister has absolute power. They've moved from a prime ministerial system to a presidential system.
Right. We went from playing baseball to playing basketball, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, so what's the new rules of the game?
Right.
Yeah. Honestly, and this is always my thing. I really want more stories with the non-humanoid races. I really want to see more of Hutt culture. I mean, honestly, the twins, I didn't like the twins that we saw in Book of Boba Fett because they were a little creepy, but I'm going to wager that other Hutts find them creepy too. I would say, oh no, the twins, yeah, that's some Wanda Quicksilver Ultimate stuff going on. We don't deal with the twins. Right. That's something we don't talk about. We don't talk about the twins, but I would love to know more about the Hutt culture. Because I do get the feeling they are a dominant force that has a huge that like the Kingpin in comic books has a huge soak and great strength that they just you can't defeat them easily. But the only reason why Leia was able to strangle Jabba was because he was already very, very old at that point. Because he had been ruling Tatooine for like 100 years at that point, and it's like he was already pretty up there, and it's like, anyway, that's my own opinion on the subject, but that's a whole other thing. But I get the feeling that the Hutts, like any other race, are going to have a panoply of people within them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of Hutts, like one of the interesting stories of one of the little anime Star Wars stories I told was the one Hutt who wants to be a punk rocker. And he just wants to play music, man.
That's funny.
Yeah, and he goes and him and his band do a whole thing. It's fun. It's fun. I think that's what happened to Jabba's son. Is he went to music, man? As so many children of successful gangsters do. You go follow your passion and follow your art, and that's okay. Because I don't want my kid to be a gangster because it's a dirty business.
Yep.
If you want your kid to be a gangster, that's bad. You want your kid to go have his own life. Unless you're a bad gangster, and then you do the family business. You do what I tell you to do, because you're just an extension of me, of my own ego. That's like, well, yeah, that's not cool. Anyway,
well, let's get to the end. We get to the final scene where the mole inside the ISB or whatever they're called comes to see Luthen. And Luthen has to get him in check and get him in line. And he gives an amazing speech about how much he's sacrificed and how much he's given. He's sold his own humanity to be able to save these people. But what was interesting to me in that moment is when the camera cuts to him and you see Stellan Skarsgård's face, I immediately saw Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. So another parallel to Dune, he did play Baron Harkonnen before he played this character. So it's kind of interesting, but you saw the seeds of evil in there, right? What is he willing to think is okay to get to the goal? How far do you let yourself go before you recognize you've strayed far from your goal? And he's on that path. And I think he's lost down that path. He doesn't really know, but the only thing he has to cling to is this ideal that he adopted a long time ago, that little equation. Right.
Well, yeah.
So I found that to be really, really interesting and really powerful. It read sort of inspiring, but it also read like a typical villain's manifesto. Right.
Well, let me give you the fan theories. Because there's a big fan theory about him. So the idea is that, he has like a walking stick with the metal hilt. That's his old lightsaber. And the Kyber crystal he gave to Cassian at the start is the Kyber crystal from his lightsaber. That he is actually a Jedi in hiding.
Wow.
And what he effectively said was, you know what? I can't be a Jedi anymore, but I can use all the powers of the Sith against them. I will never be redeemed, and I will not fall to the Sith, but I will be as evil as any Sith has ever been to ensure that the world is made better, that the world is a place where Jedi could once again live.
Yeah, he says as much because I'm relegated to using my enemies' weapons to defeat them. Mm.
Exactly. And it is this idea. He has cut himself off from the Force. He does not have balance within the Force. He does not have the peace and the will and all of the joys. Because the whole joy of the Force is meditation within the Force.
Mm.
That's why you become a Jedi, is to be the monk who sits and feels the universe all around you and feels it flow through you. And you become one with the Force, and then you become the immortal Force that is the Force of the universe. And he has said, no, I will not be that, because right now, if I were to be that, first off, I would be struck down, which is not good. But more to the point is it would allow for others to be struck down. But if I close myself off from the Force, but I take all the things the Sith do, I will be both invisible to the Sith, because I just look like another venial person to them. Because when the Force comes to me, it just says, oh, he is venial. That is all it is telling them. And I can then use that venality to push the rebellion against it. I can trick the Empire into being more venial, to giving into their dark side. I can trick the Empire into being more evil, so that everyone else who will then react to that evil by being better. And I can push the Empire away. And I can defeat the Sith through your classic Tai Chi movement, which is you come to me, I redirect, and push you away. And as much as you push, I push back.
Yeah, you just keep being you.
Exactly. I'm going to rope-a-dope. He's rope-a-doping them. It's like, I catch your fist as you punch, and I punch with both your force and my own.
Right.
And that's how the rebellion defeats the Sith. For like, what, another 20 years before the First Order rises. And, you know, at some point, you're going to have to talk to people about the problems inherent in the Empire, in the Republic, because clearly it has its problems, not the least of which is the very rigid caste system that puts freaking lovable Hutts who just want to make a buck at the bottom, along with even humanoids, although he was a redhead. A redheaded humanoid down there with the Hutts. It's like, you redhead. You go be with those Hutts. You're not one of the elites. So maybe at some point we'll see a republic that actually, like the Federation, not only tolerates difference, but embraces it. And that's what we're hoping for in the next 3 movies.
Let's go.
Mozz. Well, actually, first I'll limit you the company stuff. Folks, if you like this show, if you want to talk to us about the show, write to us at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's Capes and Lunatics, all spelled out as one gigantic word, at the gmail.com, or just gmail.com, because that is the Google force that runs at least a portion of the internet. You can likewise use the old-fashioned telephono to call 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES, and that will allow you to give us your voice message about this or any other subject in the Capes and Lunatics family, of which you can find about it at Linktree. That's linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. Again, all spelled out. There you will see all of our shows, all of our merch, and all the ways to give us money, from Patreon on to just Cash App. Like, give us money for no reason. If this show is worth $1, send us $1. We'd appreciate it. And then, Mozz, how can they reach you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And likewise, you can reach out to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, find me on the Twitter as I live tweet things like Bebo Saves Christmas, the best Christmas story ever told. Except, I guess, the first one, although I don't know what's so cool about that one, except, I guess it has refugees finding shelter, and that's a good thing. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you delightful landlubbers. You've come to the end of another exciting episode of Full Stream Ahead. You've sailed upon the briny mists that is the internet. We ask you to come back next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arg.
All right.